Meeple Nation Podcast, episode 394, Descent, Legends of the Dark. Ooh, just in time for Halloween.
Welcome, citizens of Meeple Nation. For the next 30 minutes, sit back and enjoy.
Meeple Nation is sponsored by GameToppersLLC.com. Upgrade your game night, upgrade your game space, upgrade every single game you own or will ever own with beautiful Game Topper. They have new mats that are available that I have to go and ogle every week at least. Some of them are just so awesome. And the mats that you can get are super high quality. They're stitched on the edge. They're just awesome. You can get toppers that will fit virtually any table space. You can get leaves for them. They're modular. You can take them with you when you go to a game night somewhere else. Check them out. They have all sorts of accessories. GameToppersLLC.com.
We are your hosts of Meeple Nation. I'm Nathan Howard.
I'm Dave Holliday.
I'm Logan Howard.
And I am Andy Holliday.
Jump on over to our website, MeepleNation.com. Check us out. You can glimpse our Instagram, our blogs, bios, and any past episode that you ever would want. You can go way back to the first episode of Coup, or you can go back to last week's Halloween episode.
It's a handy little feature
to be able to look up, track that information, and find all things Meeple Nation.
My little brother asked me not too long ago for recommendations on two-player games. Two-player games, something that's small. Let's just go to MeepleNation.com and do a quick search for two-player games, and it brought up several episodes where it's been talked about over the last several years. Easy list to find.
You really did that.
Yeah.
Legitimately. Like, I'm going to talk to Richie. And he's going to say, yes, that's exactly how it went down.
Yeah. This week, we are discussing Descent, Legends of the Dark. This is a game that we were looking forward to.
Just a little bit.
As you know, Descent in some of the previous iterations was a top game for several of us. I think, Andy Poops, this was your number one.
Descent Second Edition is my number one game.
And I believe this one was also in my top 5 when we did our top 5 games episode. When they announced it, the excitement on all of our faces, every time we talked about it, we're like, oh, I can't wait. I'm so excited to play this. I can't wait for this to come out. And it finally did, and we finally got a chance to play it. Everything I was hoping for.
Thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm glad I put it on my 10 for 10. Getting close to the end of the year, so hopefully we can get it in 10 times. I don't think anybody's going to complain about being forced to play it, Logan.
I haven't had a chance to play it yet.
We're looking forward to including you in our adventures for sure.
I think you'll like it, Logan. I'm excited for additional content to come out. I mean, it's going to be...
I haven't even made it through the first content yet.
I know, but you got to remember, every time I've gotten into Descent, it's been after there's been a lot of stuff out, so I've done like bundle purchases on everything, so I'm used to having a ton of content with it.
That and Andy's been talking about printing new terrain, new doors for his current game.
That is true.
He has lots planned for it.
Speaking of that, you bring up the terrain. Descent Legends of the Dark is different. It's not 3rd edition, it's its own standalone game, but it has 3D terrain. You're building the map, not just laying map tiles like previous Descent games, but you're actually building the terrain, building different floors, and
which I think is really cool. The whole floor element where you can go up a 2nd floor, you can even go up to a 3rd floor.
It's very cool.
It's all cardboard still. It's quality cardboard cutouts that you're going to end up putting together. And there's trees that are the cardboard cutouts, and there's all these different things, right? Not just the floors and everything. To be honest, when I saw some pictures, I was a little disappointed because I've been spoiled. Andy has made a lot of 3D terrain that is like exceptionally cool for our other Descent game and other games. And so I've been spoiled with some amazing 3D pieces in my games. And so I was a little afraid of how this was going to be. But that first play, we started putting it together and I was just like, this is awesome. It didn't disappoint like I thought it would.
I guess before we get too far into this, we should say Descent Legends of the Dark is a 1-to-4 player game designed by Kara Centell-Dunk and Nathan Hajek, published through Fantasy Flight Games. Plays in 120 to 180 minutes.
Yeah, we kind of did get excited and jump the gun there a little bit.
I wonder why, because we were all very excited about the game.
Now, that 120 to 180 minutes, it's a long playing time. But this is one of those games that you don't realize that it's taking such a long time because you're involved. There's the story. You kind of get engulfed in it. It doesn't drag on. You don't have time to pull up your phone and start playing something else. It's really nice.
Yeah, I haven't found myself getting distracted in this game so far.
Before we get too distracted from the quality of the cardboard cutouts for the terrain and everything, I think the key what David was talking about was quality. We've had other games where they've had cardboard cutouts. It's alright. They actually put the time and effort into designing the stuff so that it actually looks really good, fits well together. They designed the box, holds it all together, so you don't have to take it back apart. In fact, I was reading an article before it came out, how expensive it is shipping from China, that it was half air in all the boxes because it was terrain not assembled.
I think it was more than half air. I really do.
They were saying it was an actual executive decision that no, we have to do it this way just to make it the right game, even though it costs a little extra money.
It worked out great. Disassembling and reassembling that terrain time and time again makes it so it falls apart, wears out, becomes a detraction from the game instead of something that is a high quality accessory to the game.
Yeah, and the same would happen if you took it apart and put it back together.
You are absolutely correct, Dave.
So not
And
only
thank
that,
you for pointing that out.
not only that, it's greatly appreciated. Being a gamer, number one, I probably wouldn't take it all apart. I would put it in a different box and be lugging around an extra box. I actually left enough space in the box for additional content. For the base game, we're going to make that box big enough, and even though with the extra shipping cost, just enough to fit the base game. They went above that and made extra space for expansions. So
In our last news episode about playing Clank players, and we pull out that Clank box, and that Clank box has been beat up because I try to put all the expansions and everything into that one box with cards that are sleeved, and that box is just filled to the brim. It was nice when games like Terraforming Mars comes out with a big box expansion. I think more games, if they're going to have a ton of expansions, they need to come out with a way to combine them all into one box. Because I think Clank could benefit greatly from having a big box expansion.
and I think you can do that with a lot of games. There's certain games that there's just so much content. You don't want a box that huge. There's just not enough room on your game shelf. Previously with Descent games, they have come out with so many expansions that I honestly think it would be a difficult time doing a big box expansion for some of them. That being said, it is nice to have that extra space, at least for the beginning. I'm hoping eventually they come out with enough content for Descent Legends of the Dark. It's a nice problem to have, that there's so much content you have to have multiple boxes on your shelf.
Getting this game to the table, opening it up, you have your choice of only a few characters to start. This was a disappointment for me.
Actually, I thought it was going to be a big detriment for you.
It wasn't. I've chosen one. I chose the wrong one, but I chose one and I'm going and I'm enjoying it.
Wait. I want to hear more about why it's the wrong one.
Because it's the one I chose?
Yeah.
Didn't we swap? We swapped, didn't
No,
we?
we didn't.
Was it just because Nathan chose? Are you like 4?
No, Dave has problems.
Oh, we know this. They're
So
documented.
whenever he picks a character, he likes to play a magic user. He doesn't like playing fighter types.
But I will recover sometime.
Do you still run away and hide behind the wizard?
Yes.
That's typical. I mean, come on.
We have a scaredy cat
let's not
fighter.
get crazy here. But one of the things I'm excited about is we've already discovered that we're about to unlock 2 new characters as well. That's exciting for me. I hope that as we go, we continue to unlock more.
I think what's cool about that is to get the characters unlocked, you have to go on side quests
Mm-hmm.
to be able to unlock them, or actual quests to
Right.
unlock them. We had 4 people playing, and we had 4 characters to choose from. With this now, it gives us a few more options, and you don't have to play the same character every time like we've done in previous Descent games. You can switch it up. Everybody kind of levels up the same, similar to other Descent games. One thing that I thought was really interesting with this, we've been comparing this with Descent 2nd Edition, there's card flipping. Even the character cards. You have card flipping, your character card flips in 2nd Edition as well. But with Descent Legends of the Dark, you're not using your heroic feat. That's not why you're flipping your card. You're actually flipping your card and changing your abilities over. And you can do that multiple times during the adventure. It just changes things up. I also like the way that they did fatigue in this. When you gain fatigue, you have multiple cards that you can actually put fatigue on it. So if it has a fatigue icon on it, you can actually put fatigue on that card, and when it flips, all the tokens that are on that card when it flips go away.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's a really cool mechanic that they've added. It adds a whole lot more, really expands so much what you can do. Previously, you have a move action, an attack action, you could take a rest action, and any combination of those. And then your special abilities that your class might have. It really adds to your choices and to your available actions, I guess.
Allows you to change things up, or if flipping your weapon card to your other weapon, because you get two weapons, actually have put them in a card sleeve so they go back to back. Switching that weapon, because the ability on that weapon may fit the particular circumstance that you're in the game, so flipping that can be super beneficial. Or maybe you just need a rest because you need to empty some fatigue out, make some more room for fatigue so you can fuel some more powers. Overall, I think that's awesome. One downside that I see to that I like better in 2nd edition is the weapons you have, they progressively get better, but it's not like you're finding new weapons.
Yeah.
So it's very, very linear as far as your character progression. There's not a lot of variability.
Yeah.
I liked 2nd edition more. It seemed like it was more customizable. It made your character a little more yours, a little more unique than I think Descent Legends of the Dark does. I think that's the one thing I disliked about the game, but I think it's a minor thing. The gameplay's great.
I feel the same way. When we've talked about this before, Andy, you and I, we both kind of felt that way. But we also don't know what else is ahead of us, right? Like, hoping they're going to add some more stuff that's really going to change that and get it closer to the feel that you get in 2nd edition.
Really like the weapons. I like that has that double side on it. You take one of the actions, it'll cause you to flip over that card. Then you can't use that other side of the card until you flip that card again. It's a simple little thing, but allows the game to include 2 cards within one card. Kind of force you out of just, this is what I'm going to do. This is all I'm going to do. That it kind of forces you to say, okay, I'm going to do this. Now I'm going to have to do this.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't think about that. But you're right. It breaks up the monotony a little bit of playing, so you're not...
And timing of all of that adds a lot of the different strategies.
I liked the investigating and even the going through the challenge of, in the scenario we were playing, the challenge of climbing the tree. How I was really crappy at climbing a tree. But no, Andy, he goes over there and he climbs right up the tree. I ended up falling, or I can't remember what it was. I couldn't climb up the tree, and so I lost those actions because I attempted to do something that was out of my ability. There's so many little elements that, as the game's evolved, we're in the 3rd iteration of this Descent. They've taken bits and pieces that they've learned from Imperial Assault. They've taken pieces that they've learned from Lord of the Rings, Journeys in Middle-earth, combined all of that together. Again, this uses the app, and it uses the app very well. Follows the story as you interact. It just takes out that element of needing the Overlord. You look at Fantasy Flight's evolution as they went through that first with Imperial Assault. And yeah, it was okay. It was kind of fun to play with. It just didn't quite have the feeling of having the dark side player there. And then again with Journeys in Middle-earth, they learned a lot, and they did that very well. We talked about it 2 weeks ago, Andy. We talked about that terrain changing, that pattern changing. With Descent, from what we've experienced so far, there's so much more content, so much more accessibility to this game, and the app works so well with it that I am very excited to play these 10 times before the end of the year.
Sorry, that's a pretty bold statement. Need to do it 9 more times before the end of the year?
We got it.
We got to crack on it. We thought we were going to have to take control and tell Nathan, no, we're going to play this game.
I don't think it'll take much.
We're just going to be caught up on episodes, and Monday night's free.
We've all played Descent, 2nd edition, right? I'm curious as to what your guys' opinion is on Descent Legends of the Dark. My opinion on Descent 2nd edition, there are times when we're playing that I'm thinking, how in the world are we going to win this? The number of monsters that are on the board and everything else, I'm thinking, we're getting swarmed. How in the world are we going to do this? At least the first scenario we played, I didn't feel like it had that element to it. I think towards the end of that, it could have, but we were able to finish off the scenario fairly quickly before the masses started catching up with us. Do you think that we're going to have the same feel?
I hope so, because I actually really look forward, because we've had plenty of experiences in Gloomhaven where we're overwhelmed, saying that exact same thing. We are not going to get through this. Just playing a game last night with my wife, Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion, she's like, there's no way we're going to get through this scenario. We had to kill cultists, but then they'd come back as living corpses. And so we had to kill everything twice. And I'm like, well, first off, we don't have to kill everything twice. All we have to do is kill the cultists or the zealots, and then we can kill the boss. And it worked out. And it was pretty close. My character's pretty soft in that. And my character's pretty soft in Descent, too. When I can't even climb a tree, fighting, I'm not very much help at all. I hope, anyways, that it's a struggle, right? It's tight. It's like, holy cow, how are we going to do this? How are we going to get through this? I really like that in cooperative games where it's not just a cakewalk.
Yep.
It needs to be a challenge.
Yep, I agree.
The last time we played, it felt like that. For me, anyways, apparently my character is super easy to die. Felt like I wasn't really doing much of anything because I had to stay back all the time and try to do ranged attack. I didn't do very well at that either. I'm hoping that throughout this series, throughout the Act 1, that it's a challenge. I love it when cooperative games are a challenge.
I agree.
I found that with Descent 2nd Edition, which is something I think I kind of didn't get with... Keep comparing Star Wars Imperial Assault, Journeys in Middle-earth, and Descent Legends of the Dark. With Imperial Assault, when you're playing against a dark side player, that challenge is there. There's that real feel of competition, whereas...
Also with Imperial Assault, you have that overlord, that evil player. You have strategy, but you can't strategize too loud, otherwise they're like, oh, hey, that is a good idea.
Yeah, kind of an element I like. At the same point, when you take the Imperial Assault app and you're playing with that, it didn't feel like the challenge was there when I played through the app.
Really?
Yeah.
So I thought they did a fairly decent job with the app, just because I think they tried to make it a little more challenging for that reason. Did you play all the scenarios on that?
Played through the first campaign that they released, and I played all through that, and I just felt how the Empire moved. They'd attack, they'd fall back. I felt if you're dealing with the AI versus dealing with another player, some of their strategy just didn't seem to be advantageous.
That makes sense. You haven't played Imperial Assault with someone playing the Empire as a rebel, correct?
I have.
You have, okay.
Yeah.
So you still liked it better with having someone playing the Empire than as a rebel as well. I'm the opposite. I actually enjoyed the app better.
Oh, did you?
The only reason, and Nathan, you played the Empire, nothing against you, because you were playing to win, but we saw a lot more variety in what we were fighting.
No, I get that. I bring out those deathers and bring them out every time.
We kill them and they come right back.
True. Well, it wasn't just the Death Troopers. It was a lot of... Basically, we were fighting the same stuff every time. Just seeing more of what the game had to offer. We were able to do that more with the app. I guess it was just a different experience. Maybe that's probably the better way to put it. I didn't think it was necessarily worse or better. It was just different. Definitely more challenging with someone playing the Empire, for sure.
I think that's the point that I'm trying to make.
Yeah.
In Descent 2nd Edition, you had the opportunity for somebody to play the Overlord.
Right.
I felt that Lord of the Rings, Journeys in Middle-earth, I felt that still just having the app do all the monsters, there was just a little bit of, not as much as Imperial Assault, but there was still just a little bit of detachment they could have used with some non-AI, right? That if somebody was playing the forces of Sauron, then it could have been a little bit more implementation in that, a little bit maybe more aggressive, opposed to being more of a programmed move.
And I think with that, I think it really depends on where the heroes go. It depends on Lord of the Rings Journeys in Middle-earth. It'll say, oh, this group of monsters is going to target this individual. If they can't get to that individual, then they're going to go to the closest.
Right.
I like the AI in that. I think it's well done. But I think that's just the general problem you're going to have with anything that has AI in it.
You're absolutely right.
But I think they did a good job with Descent Legends of the Dark with the AI.
Which was what I was trying to get to, is that I feel that evolution has come from Imperial Assault. Then they made some improvements with Journeys in Middle-earth. Again, they made more improvements so that I feel that the AI in Legends of the Dark, that it has stepped up its game. It felt more...
organic.
Yeah, that's probably a great word to use for it. It felt more organic. It made me feel a little bit more anxious, which is something that I felt was lacking in the other app-driven games.
I totally can see what you're saying, and I agree with you. It's not quite so predictable, or maybe it is, but there's enough going on that you can definitely get that feeling of anxiety from the game.
But going from these one versus many, that's something that I enjoy. It is that face-to-face conflict. Oddly, something that I don't really seek out in most games. I don't like that head-to-head conflict. But in these, like you mentioned, I play to win in Imperial Assault because nobody wants to just walk away with a victory. Secretly, at the same point, you want the good guys to win.
Do you?
I do, yeah. Again, that competition is still there. I want to make it as hard. And if I can win, that's great. But overall, I think you want the good guys to win.
I felt guilty about winning some games when we played the new Lucky Duck game, Destinies, going through the recap at the end of the scenario. Hey, you won. Well, by the way, this is so-and-so. And I'm like reading, I'm like, wow, I was kind of a jerk. Well, I won.
You didn't know that your character that you were playing was going to end up being a total jerk at the end until you read the final stories for everybody. And the fact that you won the game, you were the one that entered the keep, basically didn't get into play. It was,
left the rest of us for dead.
Not just us, but the rest of the town for dead. You've talked about climbing the tree a couple times, Nathan. This is one thing that I thought was such a great touch that they did with this game, and that was they made the terrain interactable. In the app, you have the map, and it has where the terrain is. And if you want to climb a tree, it tells you what you have to do. And if, at least in the area we played, it gives you several options. You choose what option you want, and then you have to do a skill test. Or maybe it just gives you something and you don't have to do a skill test. But the fact that you can interact with the terrain pieces is so cool.
Yeah, not just that you can interact with it, but there's a benefit to it, right? There's a reason. You're encouraged, hey, explore this world fully. I think it's great.
So we can't talk about Descent Legends of the Dark without really talking about the app. It's a fully integrated app. It's unlike second edition where you can use the app or you can have an overlord. You have to have the companion app. The app tracks damage in the background for monsters. You don't have to do any of that like you've had to do in second edition. Not only that, when you do hits on the monsters, they're going to be very similar to how it works in Journeys in Middle-earth, where you'll do hits. There's a random number that it does additional damage. So you don't know exactly how much damage you're going to be doing. The weapon has a base damage, but
certain weapon types like slashing and piercing might do more.
That too. There's a little bit of extra damage that'll do. It's like between 1 and 3, I think, if I recall. If the enemy you're fighting has a vulnerability to the weapon type you're using, then yes, it does damage on top of that. It keeps track of that. If I fight a monster, I find out that it's vulnerable to slashing. The app remembers that. So I don't have to remember, oh yeah, they're vulnerable to slashing. It shows it on the screen, shows that they're vulnerable to slashing. So for the rest of that campaign, we now know that that particular creature is vulnerable to slashing damage.
I love that because there's so many times in bigger games like this that we have to rediscover something.
Because we play so many games, and we've had this problem with a lot of our campaign games. We come back to it, and it's like, oh crap, how do I play this again? Right?
We talk about Imperial Assault, we still need to go back and finish that last game.
Yeah, that's true. I thought the app did a great job with the app. Very well done.
The whole keeping track of successes when you're trying to open a door, you're trying to unlock the door, damage the door, whatever, keeping track of all that information. And not just from me hitting the door, but from other players hitting the door also.
Well, that kind of adds to it as well, right? Once again, it's very similar to Lord of the Rings Journeys in Middle-earth. For certain things, you have to have so many successes, but you don't know
what that threshold is.
Yeah, you don't know what the threshold is. So it keeps track of that, and you just have to keep trying until you hit the threshold. Whereas in another game, you have to get so many. You know what your goal is. With that unknown, it just adds a little bit of mystery or kind of the anxiety, anticipation to it once again, where you're, oh my gosh, we really need to get this done. The game typically tries to, like in Descent fashion, tries to get you to hurry up. Things can get hairy really quick if you don't progress the game quickly.
I think the game is great. I'm looking forward to playing it a lot. Excited that the expansion's coming out, but I want to make sure that we fully investigate what Act 1 has to offer. Well known that we enjoy campaign-driven games 100%, because we have a lot of them. And we continue to buy a lot of them, then prevents us from playing anything else.
That's not a bad thing.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
The same point, though, we talk about the app. The app is done well. The exploration is done well. The interaction with everything on the board. I'm just thoroughly pleased with this game. Looking forward to many more experiences with it.
I've really been enjoying it so far. My excitement is still there for future plays. I am excited to see what they've done. I'm excited to see what we unlock. I'm excited for all the new stuff that comes out. I'm hoping that I will end up liking it more than 2nd edition. Obviously, it's not there yet because I love 2nd edition and I've only gotten to play this very few times so far.
Logan, I think you'll like it. I can't remember where you were when we played.
I was actually just thinking that. I was like, who did they betray me and play this game with?
It was with James. The funny thing is I think James enjoyed the voice acting more than he enjoyed the game. Not that there's voice acting in the app. It was done just here at the table. But
Yeah. That's actually one thing that I think is worth talking about. Having fun when you're reading the text on the screen, doing it in some fun voices, and I think that adds a lot to it. I really do. So I love that y'all are as up for that as I am, because I really do think that increases the...
You mean Andy Holiday's ready for some accents?
Yeah.
We've had fun with that with 2nd edition as well. I think this has the makings of a great game. I'm along the same lines with you, Dave. I really hope it surpasses my love for Descent 2nd edition. I think that's a tall bill because I thoroughly enjoy and love Descent 2nd edition. So if it surpasses it, it's going to be an awesome game. Very excited for it. It's a beautiful game. I love the app. If you don't have it already, you should pick it up. So they do have an announcement for the expansions coming out. I'm super excited about that. I'm hoping that it's one of many, many more so I can spend lots of money on another Descent game. But it'll hopefully be worth it. 2 thumbs up on this game.
I am extremely looking forward to being able to sit down and play it.
Excellent. Well, that is Descent. Sounds like we all quite liked it.
And theoretically like it.
And Logan, you'll look forward to liking it. I specifically requested that you liked it.
Until next time,
we'll see you seeking out your own Legend in the Dark.
As always, we want to thank you for listening.
Check out our website. We have all sorts of cool things there. Love those blogs. Get a deeper look into the writing side of Meeple Nation.
Join our Facebook group, Meeple Nation Off Air. I look forward to seeing you there.
Follow us on Twitter, @MeepleNation. We also have Instagram.
Under the same name. We also want to thank our sponsor, GameToppersLLC.com.
We love their product, and there's so much goodness out there.
And we also want to thank Brain Detergent for our music.
Meeple Nation Podcast, episode 364?
394.
Descent into Darkness?
Legends of the Dark.